Today we are going to be going over how we are going to set up a blower door, kind of some tips and tricks on how to do that. So after you get out all your pieces, you're going to put your frame together. What you'll notice on the frame is that they're all numbered. The one should match to the one, and it kind of just helps you put it together correctly. Another thing is always make sure that the black gasket is on the outside of the frame, as that helps you actually get a true air-sealed seal. After you got it together, make sure all your screws are loose. Then you're going to go into your door frame, put it in the door, kind of kick it into place a little bit. And then once you get your edges, or the width that you need, you can screw the top and then the bottoms tight. Once you got those tight, you can then step on the bottom and raise it up to the height that you need. You may have to play with it a little bit here and there once you get the tarp on it, just to make sure that you are able to get it in and out of the door easily. But once you get it to here, then you'll put your tarp on. So now that you're ready, you got your frame built, we're ready to put the tarp on. Generally, I like to start from the bottom and work my way up. Sometimes you'll see people lean the frame up against the wall and drape the tarp over it. That's not how I've always done it. I've just done it on the ground. I feel like it helps you get a good seal with it. So what you're gonna do is push the frame down into this pocket on both sides. You got Velcro straps all the way around to make sure that you get it nice and tight. And then you kind of just work your way to the top. Here, you're going to want to make sure that you fold the top corners in. Bring it down so it's nice and tight. Same thing on this side. Corners down. Make sure you got a nice tight seal. So now that after you got your tarp on it, you're ready to put it in the door frame. Now that we got your tarp on your frame, we're ready to throw it into the door. This is where it can get a little tricky. Sometimes you got to make it smaller or make it a little bit bigger from the first time you measured it. But now that seems like we got it in there pretty good. You're going to want to go over to the screws that we screwed to get the shape of the frame. And you're going to want to push the levers up to make sure that it's got a nice snug fit. That kind of helps fill in the extra little gaps. One on each side, so you got to make sure you get all of them. Check your door, see if it's tight. Now you see how I got a little extra wiggle in the middle. What we got is these kind of play for a 2-for-1. They make sure the fan doesn't go anywhere. And then also I like to use them to fill in these extra sides where it may be a little looser. They give you 2 of them per bag. I try to use both of them on every time. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. It's just kind of what you got that day. But you're going to find the 2 holes down here on the sides. They're both going to be numbered 3, and then there's a 5 on this side. You want to make sure that those are in the right spots so that it's a level bar so the fan is nice and secure. Screw that nice and tight. And then same thing with that lever. Now you see, way tighter, not as much jiggle. There's even a second one if it's still not doing what you want it to. You can bring the second one into play. Kind of same thing, find a spot that's nice and even. You don't want these to be in on a slant. Kind of give it a nice tug to the side, make sure it's nice and tight. And same thing, you're going to want to tighten the screw, swing the lever. Now that thing ain't going nowhere. Now that we got our frame built, it's in there nice and snug, we're ready to put in our fan. This is our fan. This is going to be the outside, while this is the inside. So a good way to kind of go about it is you want to start with the bottom, throw that bottom in there, and then you can work the edges around. Once you got your fan in there, you're going to want to take this little black Velcro strap, tuck it around the handle, and get it nice and secured on there so it's not going to slip off the frame or anything like that. After you get your fan installed, we're ready to set up the manometer. Once you get to this step and you're ready to run your fan, there are two important things that you got to take note of. You got to make sure that your furnace and the hot water heater of the house that you are performing the blower door on are off. We don't want any backdrafting or pulling any gases into the home. But once you get it all set up and it's in the door nice and snug, you got your fan secured, we're ready to plug it into a power source and hook up the manometer. What that's going to entail, take your nice long black power cord here. It's going to be plugged in on the left side. Then you will take your red hose, this red hose will hook up to this little tube right here. Then you got your yellow, your Ethernet, and your charging cords. The yellow goes to the yellow, charging cord into the charge, and then important, the Ethernet cord has to go into the in outlet, not the out. And then you're kind of going to just repeat the same steps when plugging in the manometer. You will see that the manometer has a yellow and a red port, and then the Ethernet cord right there as well. So we're going to plug that in. It's always yellow to yellow, always red to red. Try to make it as simple as we can for you. And then you're going to plug your USB-C at the bottom, and then you're ready to perform a blower door test. Now that we got power to our fan, you're going to come onto the side here and turn it on. Always should turn your fan off also after you're done, not leaving it on the on position. I don't know if that can mess anything up, but just good standard. So once you got your manometer and everything plugged in, you're going to press the button on the side. Sometimes it can be tricky turning it on. Sometimes if it doesn't have a charge, it needs to take a minute to charge, and then it'll turn on. So you just kind of got to play with it, press the button a couple times. Now that we got our manometer on, we're ready to run our blower door. Before we can actually run the true test, what we have to do is get baseline pressure. Leaving that cover on it is very important for the baseline. You won't get a true baseline pressure if you take it off. So before you can actually run your test, make sure this cover is on. And then what you'll do is come into your RetroTech app. It's going to be the orange little square. You're going to go into Settings, scroll down to Baseline Pressure, and then you're going to hit Record. Generally, I like to let the baseline pressure run for 30 seconds on a calm day, and on a stormy, windy day, you want it to run for about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. That wind, that high pressure outside can affect our overall number throughout the blower door, and blower doors are all about accuracy. We want to get a true blower door number. We want to know how much air is really leaking out of this home. And the baseline pressure could change that if we don't take it into account. So after you let it record for 30 seconds, you're going to hit stop, save bias log, and then you're ready to go back and actually run your test. Back into the main screen here. Since we got our baseline pressure already, we can take this cover off, set it to the side. Always before you actually turn the fan on, make sure all your cords and everything are set to the side. You don't want anything getting caught in the fan. Very important when running the blower door, you always want to make sure this picture matches exactly what you have on the fan. If this is different, again, it won't give us an accurate number. We want to make sure that everything is accurate and that everything is true. So after you select the right picture to your fan, you're ready to run the blower door. You're going to go down to set pressure, picked 50 pascals. Today, it won't reach 50 pascals. We're in a garage. It's extremely leaky. But let's just imagine this reaches up to 50 pascals. You'll start to see the top number go up and up and up. Underneath here, you'll see the CFMs. After you get to 50 pascals, we want you to take a picture of the manometer and the entire fan and door setup included. That will just show whoever we're sending it to, the setup and make sure everything is correct. But yeah, after you reach that 50 pascals and you get your picture of wherever the CFM is at, that concludes your blower door. We always like to get a pre and a post. Pre to see, when we first come in, how leaky is this home? It can tell you how much work you really need to do. If you go into a house and you see that there's 4,000, 5,000 CFM leaking, that means you got a lot of work to do, and that's a good thing. After you're done with all your work and everything, a good rule of thumb is that you want to try to get your CFM down to the square footage of the home. So if it's a 1,900 square foot home, we're looking for around 1,900 CFMs. That is going to mean you got a really tight home, really good sealed up house. But yeah, after that, you're all set, and that's how you run a blower door.